I sincerely wish I didn't have to host this hearing today. But because our federal government has spent the last 3 to 4 years viciously persecuting thousands of Americans who came to Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021 to support President Trump, I have to hold this hearing.
No, you really, really, really don't, Marjorie. You don't have to do any of this. You're choosing to do it and choosing in so doing to make yourself look like a doink. You just will, because there, by the way, she admitted it. The people who've been locked up, who were in the Capitol, came to support Donald Trump. She spent years saying somehow it's Antifa. I don't know how, please let it be Antifa. But no, she admits now they were right wingers. Now they're not actually being persecuted. They are receiving the penalties for the crimes they committed, generally on TV. And that bothers her. But the hearing is here. It's the unusually cruel, a continued investigation into the treatment of J6 political prisoners. No, they were rioting. They destroyed property. They threatened to kill people. They did result in the deaths of some people and the injuries of many, many, many cops. I would love for a cop to confront Marjorie and ask her why she doesn't care that they were beating cops with fire extinguishers and flagpoles and those sorts of things. It is cruel, I think, to ignore the suffering of all those cops who bravely guarded our Capitol. But anyway, the hearing is here, and so here is her reasoning for why we need to have this.
Is a story that they want to sweep it under the rug. They don't want anyone to know the reality of what's happening. But every single day, a new January 6th defendant gets arrested and charged. And the federal government is abusing their power and is continuing to abuse their power.
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
Okay, so again, unfairly charging these people. It's so unfair. It's unusually cruel. They're prisoners, political prisoners. It's a persecution. We're gonna get to the ironic twist about this, about those people who've gone through the judicial process that is going to make her look even stupider than normal. But I want to focus first on someone who testified at this hearing. So this is Trennis Evans, convicted of knowingly entering and remaining in a restricted building on J6, served 20 days in prison. Okay, so broke in. Here's how that interaction went.
Mr. Evans, you've already served time for January 6th, is that correct?
Yes, the government was kind enough to provide me a federal prison stay for demonstrations.
Just to be clear, did you burn down the Capitol on January 6th?
No, I actually would have been better off if I were an Antifa protester that would have burned $34,000 worth of federal property that was sentenced on the same day as me, who assaulted an officer and while on pretrial release, assaulted another officer and a civilian, and who got just probation and a small fine and went home.
You would have had a 95% chance of having your charges dropped, correct?
Yeah, yes. That's correct.
Did you assault anyone on January 6th?
Only the fabric of democracy, I hear.
Thank you. God bless you for your humor.
Remember when we didn't like that our guy lost? And so we tried to storm the Capitol and stop the election from going through. We tried to stop the peaceful transfer of power for the first time in American history. I'm elected official of the United States government. Look, we don't focus a lot here on TDR on like whether a person's a traitor or not, but I kind of feel like she's making the case herself, not just doing the hearing, but coordinating with the guy and making a mockery of the fact that this guy went in to stop with a peaceful transfer of power. He went, by the way, it's on film. You can see him. He steps through a broken window. He wasn't demonstrating. He wasn't he broke in through a window. He said, "We want justice," with a megaphone. Back the blue. He's surrounded by people trying to beat cops to death. And he's like, that cop's being hit with a flagpole. Back the blue. Look, I like irony as much as the next guy, but I don't think this is the venue for it. And so she is making a mockery of this entire thing. She, after all, was the person who said if she'd been in charge of it, it would have succeeded and they would have been armed. So in her fantasies, they bring guns in to kill the cops and probably her colleagues. But that's the part of that quote from 2 years ago that people always focus on. But it would have succeeded. What do you mean? Didn't it succeed? They were just demonstrating. That's all. They weren't trying to overthrow democracy. I mean, you keep saying they're not trying to do that. So what does it mean it would have succeeded? Interesting. Again, maybe she's a traitor. But anyway, I want to go to the irony here that I alluded to earlier. The entire point of this charade is they're being too unfair to the January 6th insurrectionists. And they give the example of that guy talking about some other court with a different judge and different context, and we're supposed to just believe his interpretation of it. An Antifa person didn't get as much time as him. And that is how justice is supposed to work. You can't get a worse sentence than anyone else for a different crime, okay? Because yeah, you broke in, but they burned something down. Well, presumably the Antifa person could say, well, I didn't blow up a bomb or something, so I guess I go free too. As long as anyone in America has done a worse crime than you don't suffer any consequences. I think that's how the justice system is supposed to work. But again, undercutting the lie that we're being unfair to the January 6th insurrectionists, most January 6th defendants do get time behind bars, but less than the US sought. Now, more than 60% of the defendants sentenced so far have received jail or prison terms, but the judges in 67% of those cases went below federal sentencing guidelines. So if this was some sort of big plot, perhaps by Sleepy Joe, to just lock them up unfairly, why are they giving them less time than the guidelines say they should? They're not going harsh on these people. In fact, they're going easy on them. They're being let off the hook for some of the time that they should have served. Now, that's an inconvenient fact. You won't hear it at her hearing, but it is also at the same time the truth. Sorry.